webinar. The topic for today is track your time and enter your expenses. Just a few things to note before we get started. All participants will be put on mute. However, any questions you have are more than welcome. Please go ahead and type those into your question box, which you can find on our GoToWebinar dashboard. We'll try to answer all of your questions during the session, but if we can't, we'll make sure to get to you through email before the end of the day. Or, of course, you can also feel free to send us your questions and comments and feedback to info@projectinsight.net. My name is Denise, and I'll be your moderator for today. I'm here with Project Insight. If you're not already familiar with us, we're a cloud-based project management solution. We help companies like The Gap and Cisco to collaborate on their projects with a globally dispersed team, balance their resources, and provide executives with real-time reports. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please feel free to also email me, denise.rodriguez@projectinsight.com. Our presenter and trainer for today will be Angie Smith. She is our partner out in Canada, and she is also PMP certified. Some of the benefits of today's webinar is to learn how to update tasks, understand the different ways to enter time, decide which method time entry is best for your team, know how to get started entering time and expenses, be able to run and customize time and expense reports. And on our agenda, we'll go over how to update work status on tasks from dashboard, enter time on tasks from dashboard, update task and enter time on the time entry grid, use the project or company level entry, and edit time entries from worksheet. We'll also go over how to submit time and expenses for approval, entering expenses on the worksheet, update tasks, time and expenses from your smartphone, and running time and expense reports. So we do have a full agenda, so thank you guys. Stay put. Now I am handing this over onto Angie to continue with the rest of today's session. Hello, Angie. Welcome.
Hi, Denise. Thank you very much. Okay, so everybody should be seeing the Project Insight home screen right now. So today's training covers how to access your task list, update your task status, and track your time and enter expenses. Now, one of the benefits of using project and portfolio management software is that all of your work is stored in one central location. This empowers you to see all your tasks and other assignments for the week and enables you to manage your day-to-day activities more efficiently. Now, what you're seeing here is a typical team member home screen. And it's just one of the options and ways that your team members can interact with Project Insight. Now you can access this home screen by hovering on My Insight and clicking Home Screen. You can also make this your default screen when you log in. And to do that, you just hover on Favorites and select Set as Default. Now from this home screen, you can easily access all the information that is important to you. For example, you can see you have some tasks assigned to you. This is indicated by the red number on the Tasks option. And then you can go ahead and click on the tasks, and you will see a list of your tasks that are assigned to you. You can see the dates the tasks are expected to be completed, and you can plan your activities based on these end dates. Now you're also going to see any tasks immediately that are overdue because the end date is going to appear in red. Now if your list is too long, you may use the On It feature to narrow down the work. You can manage your work by flagging those tasks that you are actively working on right now. So to do that, hover over the task and click On It. This way, your project manager, your department manager, and the other team members can see what you're working on without having to write you an email, drop by your desk, or talk to you or phone you. Without these interruptions, your productivity will increase, and you are still providing the information to your stakeholders in a proactive and timely manner. Now, to show a list of the tasks that you're working on currently, go ahead and click on the On It text. And you can see that it's narrowing down your list to show only those tasks that you said that you're working on. To see all of your tasks again, just click on the All text. Now, another way to manage the number of tasks that appear is to use the display options. So click the display options icon. You can see that there are a variety of options here. For example, tasks are set to appear that start within 7 days or before. So you could increase that. You could increase or decrease that as you require. You can also see there is an option to automatically remove my tasks from list when marked complete, and that's checked by default. You can uncheck that to see all complete tasks again. That way you can make any changes to completed tasks. For example, if you made a mistake on a task and marked it as complete when it really wasn't, you can turn off that option, and then that task will be displayed again and you can update it. We'll leave that checked for now. Now, some other options there are to only display tasks that have all of their predecessors marked complete, and also to only display tasks that you are assigned as a task owner. So if a task has more than one resource assigned, one of those resources is always designated as the owner. So you want to check this if you only want to see those tasks that you are the owner on and not an additional resource assigned to the task. The remaining options show start date, end date, assigned by, parent, description, and path dictate what additional data fields that you want to display on this task list form. So just check those as appropriate. Now, I don't want to actually save any of these changes, so I'm going to go ahead and click the X option to close that form. So now you've decided which tasks that you want to work on based on that scheduled end date, and you're ready to start your work. Now, as you're working on your tasks, you need to keep your project managers informed about your progress. This is very important to your organization. In order to understand if projects are going to be completed on time and on budget, project managers need to understand how much work has been accomplished and how much work is still left to do. So you want to update the work status to reflect what the task status is. And that's a very common project management process. Now, in some organizations, team members have no problem at all entering a % complete to dictate where they are at. However, as PMI says, people are terrible estimators. So you may want to set up Project Insight to use terminology that is more familiar to your team instead of having them enter a percentage number. Then team members may update tasks based on words like started, almost done, in progress, and done. And that makes it easier for them to use. So you can see the status for your task is not started. So click on that status to bring up the Update Status layer. Then you can click in the drop-down for this work status. Your status options are Not Started, which equates to 0% complete, Started, which equals 25% complete, In Progress, which is 50% complete, Almost Done represents 75% complete, and Done equates to 100% complete. So this way, you can select one of these more familiar terms when updating the status, instead of entering a number for the % complete, or optionally entering an estimated time remaining. However, even though you are using words to describe the status, it still equates to % complete in the back end of Project Insight. By utilizing words to describe the % complete, this can help increase the rate of user adoption while still giving your project managers the earned value and planned value information they need to manage the project effectively. So for now, click on Started. In some organizations, depending on your project management maturity level and the types of projects that you do and whether or not you track time, that may be all you want your team members to do. Just update the status of the task. And then no other information is required. So if that's the case, just click Save. However, if you do need to update time, then it is a best practice to enter that at the same time as you're updating the task status. So let's click on the Started and to bring up our Update Status layer again. So you can enter your time directly from this layer and not just update the work status. So to do that, click on the Time section to expand it out. And you can enter your time rapidly for the current day. Enter in the hours that you spent and click Save. So as you can see, it's very simple for you to update the status and enter time for the current day right from the home screen. However, you can also use that same form to enter more than one time entry. So click on the status text again to bring back up that update status layer. And you will notice this time that the time section is expanded out, and you don't have to expand it out again. That's because Project Insight remembered that you had expanded it the last time and knows that's the way that you do your work. So it remembers that setting and uses it the next time you open the layer. So you can see your previous time entry. But you can also add more by doing another entry in the gray blank line. So for example, if you had time worked on different days, you can change the date by just entering it in or clicking on the calendar icon. Select the date. For example, we're going to enter in time for yesterday, and that's maybe because we had to leave early and didn't get a chance to enter our time yesterday. The best practice is that you should enter your time whenever you finish a task or you finished working on a task, or at the end of each day. But in some cases, things happen and you don't get that done, so you are able to change the date and enter, your time for previous days. So then go ahead and enter your time, and then click the Save icon on that line. So it saves it, and then you could add more entries if you require. Then when you're done, click Save to save all of the information. So you're going to update the task status and enter time as the task is being worked on. Now in some cases, like if you have a short duration task, such as 4 hours or 1 day, you may just go directly from not started to finished or done. And that's kind of normal in those shorter duration type tasks. But when you have a longer duration task, you definitely want to be keeping this updated, like I said, as you do the work or as you finish doing a piece of the work or at the end of the day. And again, that's important for your project managers to know how the work is progressing. Now, when you finish a task, you also need to indicate that. So click on that status link again to bring back up that update status layer. Click in the drop-down for the work status and set it to done. Now, although you don't see this, when you select done, the percent complete is automatically set to 100%, and the remaining hours for the task is set to 0. So now click Save. Once you've marked a task as being completed, it will be removed from your task list. Remember, it's not showing any of your completed tasks because in the display options, if you click back on that, you set it so that you want to automatically remove tasks from your list when marked complete. So now you can go ahead and start work on your next task on your list. So that's one way to update the task status and enter time, which is directly from that home screen. Now you may also do the same function from your dashboard. So let's click X to close that list of tasks, and then click on My Insight. Now when you do that, it takes you to the main dashboard. And you may have set this as your default form when you log in instead of the home screen. And that's fine, it's your preference. You can set up whatever form in Project Insight you want as your home screen when you log in. but this is a common way that you do it as well as the home screen. So you can see that you have a list of your tasks displayed, and they look at the same as that list of tasks from your home screen. Now you can also set display options on here, and these are separate from the display options you set on the task list on your home screen. So click on that display options icon. So you can see they are all the exact same settings, but they are different settings than the home screen. So if you change your home screen settings, that only affects your home screen. It doesn't affect it here, or vice versa. So if you want them the same, you need to set them in both places. Go ahead and click X to close that layer. Now to update the status and enter time, all you do is click on the status text, the same as you did on the home screen. And then that same update status layer appears, and you can update your status, and you can enter in time the same way. Now, if you prefer to view more detail before you update your tasks, you may also use the task detail form to enter time. Now, to get to the task detail form from your dashboard or that home screen, just simply click on the task name. And that brings you to the task detail form. Now, from this form, you are able to see the scheduled start and end date of the task, who the task is assigned to, and this is also the task owner. If there are additional resources assigned, you'll see them as well. And you can also see the duration and the expected work hours that it's going to take and the status. And again, there are some hyperlinks in here. For example, if you clicked on the not started, again, you're going to be able to update that status right from there as well. Now, there is some additional information that you can see. So click on the details section label to expand that out, and you can see some additional information, such as any actual start and end dates, if they were entered, the estimated work hours remaining, and the resource type and role that's required on this task, along with some other data. And you can click on a name to collapse this section of your screen to keep showing only important information. So if you didn't want to see those details all the time, just click on it to collapse it again. And the system is going to remember whether your different sections were expanded or collapsed so that you don't have to set them each time. So if you did want to see that details and you had it expanded out, Project Insight's going to remember that and display it this way the next time you open this task detail form for basically any task, not just this one. Now you can review comments about the task on this Comments tab. So you can add a comment by clicking on the plus sign. Type in the comment and click Save. So your comment is displayed and is visible to anyone who has access to this project in this task. The comments section may also show you system comments that get generated, such as if something on the task changed along the way. And for example, you can see there is a system comment here that says the work status was changed by Andrea from not started to started. And there's some more information about those in another training session called Collaboration. Now you can also add time entries and also see the time entries that were previously entered for this task by clicking on the Time tab. Anytime that you or any other resource enter time against this task, it's going to be listed. So you can see that there is a time entry here of the 6 hours. To add a new time entry, just simply click in the actual hours in the gray blank line and click Save. And you can add any additional time entries this way, changing the date or the time code or even the resource as you required. Now from this task detail form, you can enter time, But from the same form, you can also enter any hard costs or non-labor costs for this task. So to do that, click on the Expense tab. For example, if you had to purchase supplies to complete this task, you may enter that total expense in the actual cost field. Or alternatively, you can erase that actual cost and enter in a quantity and a unit price. And the system will automatically calculate the actual total cost. You can also change the date of the expense code, and enter a description if you require. Then go ahead and click Save. And that's tracking any non-labor costs against your task. Now, because I'm logged in as a project manager on this project, so I'm actually set to be not only a resource on the task, but I'm also a project manager on this project. I'm actually going to see some extra fields down here that your regular team members, like John Sysadmin, who's not a project manager, they're not going to see these fields. So I am seeing a little bit more extra details, both on the expense and time entry forms, because I am a project manager on the project. Now there's some other ways that you can also enter your time. So one common way that a lot of team members choose is to enter it from what is called a time entry grid. So go to My Insight and hover on Time and select Time Entry Grid. So if you need to account for the time spent all week, you may choose to enter everything from this one form instead of going to each individual task. Or if you'd like to get a high-level overview of all your tasks for the week for a given time period, you may also choose to use this form to do your time entry. Now you can empower your team members to interact with the system the way they want, instead of a set pre-prescribed way that they must interact with the system. And that encourages buy-in and participation. So if your team members like to use the time entry grid to use their time, they can. Or if they'd like to use that home screen, they can, or they can use the dashboard. It's up to them. They can work the way they want. Now to see the tasks for a particular project on the time entry grid, click on the arrow next to the task name to expand that out, and then go ahead and do that for all of your projects on your grid. So you can see that there are tasks that are scheduled to be worked on this week for a couple of different projects. To enter time on the time entry grid, simply enter your time for the day on the different tasks that you worked on. Now, at the bottom of the grid, you'll notice that all of your hours for the week and the day are adding up as soon as you tab out of the time slot. So you can see it's taking on Monday my 5 hours for my retainer receive task, and then adding the 3 hours for the define preliminary resources task, and giving me a total for the day of 8, and then so on for the other days as well. Now, after you've finished entering all of your time, go ahead and click Save, and that will save it to the database. Now, you can see that the hours are now saved because they are displayed on a separate row below the actual task. So those are the saved total hours for the task. You can change other information as well from this grid, such as the time code that you're using and the work status as well. Now the time and expense codes are covered in detail in some other training sessions. Now if you want to enter a description for the time entry, whenever you're in one of the time entry boxes, you'll see the little triangle in the corner, and you can click on it and the description layer will appear. And let's go ahead and do that again. So just enter in a description. And all you need to do to save that description is just click anywhere on the white space to exit out of the box and save it. Now you can also set up your time entry grid to customize it to suit your preferences. So click on the display options icon. Now most of what you're going to set here is going to be done according to your specific business processes, and you're going to set it once and that's it. You won't have to set it again. However, if you do want to interact with the information in different ways, you can change that. For example, by default, the time entry grid groups your tasks by projects. So click on the group by options to expand that section out, and you can see here that it's automatically set up to group by project. But you can remove that grouping and just have the tasks listed in alphabetical order. And you do that by clicking this remove icon. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave it grouped by project because that is the most common option that's used. But alternatively, you could add a grouping as well, such as grouping by the company or the summary task. Now there is an option in the administration section that your administrator may have set that enables you to enter time at a project level and not just at a task level. So if that system level setting is turned on, you're also going to see this option called Show Project Time Entry Input when grouping by project. So when it's checked on, then on your time entry grid, you're actually going to be able to enter time here against the project level. If you uncheck it and then update, you'll see that you are no longer able to enter time at that project level. So click on the display options to go back in there. And click on the Group by Options section to collapse it. Now the other option you have is to only see certain projects on the grid. So to do that, click on the Company Time Entries and Project Filter to expand that out. Click on the Project Filters drop-down and choose only the projects that you want to appear. For now, you're just going to leave it blank because you want to see all projects that have tasks scheduled to be worked on this week. Now, Project Insight also allows you to enter time for not just project and tasks, but you may also enter non-project time so that you get a complete picture of your work for the day or the week. Now, one of the ways you can enter non-project time is to enter time at a company or organizational level. So click in the Company Entries drop-down. Now, a lot of companies will allow time entry for their company to allow you to enter non-project time, such as meeting or administration, against your company. So you just have to click on your company name to move it from this side to this side and select it. Then click on the white space to exit out of there, and then click on the Company Time Entries and Project Filter section to collapse it again. So even though it's collapsed, it still does remember what you've said in there. It's just being hidden because it's not something that you need to see immediately. Now you may also choose which columns of data you want to view while entering time. So click in the Column Selection Filtering Options section to expand that out. So for example, you may want to add in the end date of the task so that you can see when it's expected to be completed. So to do that, click on the end date and then click on the arrow to move it to the selected columns. And then you can apply these changes by clicking the Update Display icon. The scheduled end date now shows for each of the tasks. And you'll also see now down here at the bottom that your company is listed and there is time entry boxes available for you to enter time against your company. Now most of the time you are going to have some time codes set up, such as administration or vacation, that you would use to do entries against your company level. So for example, maybe you've got vacation on Friday. Now when it's time to submit your timesheet, you can submit it directly from this time entry grid by clicking on the Save and Submit Timesheet icon. However, if you see a mistake and you need to correct it, or you just want to double check all of your time entries before submitting them, and that's actually a recommended best practice, then you may want to do this from what we call our time entry worksheet. So to get to the time entry worksheet, you can click on Save and View Worksheet. Now the other way to get here is to hover on My Insight, hover on Time, and click Time Entry Worksheet. So this worksheet shows you all the time entries that you have entered for the given time period. So it's set right now for the current week. And it is grouped by default by day. So you can easily see the total number of hours that you entered for each day. So for June 8th, you've got 8 hours. For June 9th, you've got 5 hours. And for June 10th, you've got 9 hours, and so on. Now you can add an entry on this worksheet by clicking in the gray blank line and entering in the details. And that gray blank line is available here at the top of the worksheet. So you can change the company if you require, select the project, database development, that you're going to enter the time for, select the task, change your date if necessary. So maybe we want to add in a couple more time entries for the 9th. Change your time code if you need, enter in your hours, and then click Save. And then you can see that it gets updated and puts that time entry into the correct day bucket. So you can see that now for the 9th I've got a total of 7 hours. To edit or correct an entry that you have, you just simply click on the Edit icon. So maybe down here we've got 19 hours. Well, that's a pretty long day. So maybe, really, we did work a long day, but it was really only, 1 hour on a couple of the tasks instead of 8. So you can correct your time entries by doing that. Now you can click the Edit icon, or you can just double click on the white space on the line to go into edit mode as well. And then you can cancel or save your changes. Now if you need to delete an entry, just click the Delete option, which is the red arrow on the line that you want to delete. So you'll be asked if you want to confirm that you want to delete that entry, and just click OK. Now, like all other places in Project Insight, you may also change your column selections and other settings on this form by clicking on the Display Options icon. If you want to add additional columns, for example, again, maybe you want the task end date displayed, all you need to do is scroll down to the columns that start with the letter T, and then double-click on the task end date, and that'll also move it to the selected columns. So you can just click on it and click the arrow, or just simply double-click. And then click Update. And you're going to see that end date displayed. Now when you're ready to submit your time, click on Create and Submit Timesheet. A dialog box appears that tells you how many hours you're submitting for the current week. Now there may be some other details that you can set, and whether or not different information appears here is going to depend on your business process and what your system administrator has set in the software configuration options. So it may appear the same as this, or there may be some additional information here as well. Now, if you click Submit, this takes the time, and you get a confirmation prompt, so let's click OK. So once you do that, it basically takes the time entries out of the unsubmitted time entries bucket. And so you can see that now this worksheet is empty because only unsubmitted time entries appear on your worksheet. However, you're still able to view your submitted time entries. So to do that, hover on My Insight, select Time, and select Save Timesheets. And then you're able to see a listing of all your saved timesheets. And you can see the status. For example, it's pending PM approval. And to see the details of that timesheet, just simply click on the Start or the End Date link. And if you have any time from the past that hasn't been submitted, the software will give you a little warning. Hey, you've got some time entries that you need to submit. And it tells you that there's 42 hours that were entered from February to April that have not been submitted. So you want to make sure that you go back and get those submitted. So you've entered expenses one way, and that's from the task details screen. However, you can also enter expenses from an expense entry worksheet. So hover on My Insight, hover on Expenses, and click Expense Entry Worksheet. Now again, it's going to list any unsubmitted expense entries that you have already made for the period. So you can see there is one unsubmitted that you had actually entered in earlier. Now you can enter more by just typing again in the gray blank line at the top of the form. So select the company, the project, and task, and it does remember some defaults, so you only have to change those if those aren't quite correct. Then you can set your time code, the date, and then again enter in your total cost or the quantity and the unit price to automatically calculate the total cost. And then click Save. Now you may also attach a receipt for the expense. So you can scan receipts, or if you purchase it online, you may have a PDF receipt that you can upload. So if you want to upload a scanned receipt for any of your expense entries, click on the expense receipt icon on the line, click Browse, find your receipts file, enter in some more description if you'd like, and then click Save. Now once you do that, in the Receipts column, there's now an icon that shows, and you can just click on it to review the details about the receipt, and then click on the link again, and you can actually open up and view the receipt as well. Now if you're out in the field, or you just prefer to, you can upload your work from the mobile interface. Now the mobile interface allows you to update your tasks and expenses and enter time from any smartphone or tablet. So let's switch to the mobile interface. And one moment here while I switch. Okay, now this is the mobile interface. And so if you, log into the Project Insight with the URL, you're going to go to the mobile interface instead of the full system. And this is going to be similar to what the screen would look like on your mobile phone. And you can see it has a very similar interface to one that you've already seen, which is the home screen. So click on your tasks, and a list of your tasks that you're set to work on will be displayed. So click on a task, and you're going to see the task details. So you can do some things like just click on Mark Complete. Or if you want to go back in there, and instead of it not being complete, you can click on Update Status. So change the status, enter in a comment, and then click Save. Now you can also add a time entry by clicking the Add Time Entry option. Enter in your hours, enter a description of the time entry if you need, and again click Save. Now to enter expenses, click on the Add Expense Entry. Now you're going to enter in the details about the expense the same way as you did on the task detail form and the expense entry worksheet. So you can change the date or enter the expense code, and you can enter a quantity and a unit price, or you can just enter in your total cost. So let's do that. We'll put in $100 and then scroll to the bottom. So you'll see that you have an option to just save or save and add receipt. So click on that. Now, when you're on a smartphone, after you click on this, your phone will go to the camera and you can select a picture to upload, or you can take a photo of your receipt sort of then and there. And that's a very easy way to capture your receipts from the mobile interface, especially when you're on the road. It will help you to get those expense reports in for approval much more rapidly. Now this interface is a little bit different because I'm actually demonstrating this on my desktop computer and not an iPhone. But again, it would go to the camera on your phone and enable you to do some functions from there. Now to get out of the mobile interface, you can go back to the full site by just clicking on Full Site. And then of course you also want to expand out your screen so that you're now working on the full width instead of on the size of a mobile phone. Now submitting your expenses for approval is the same process as for submitting time. So let's go back to the time entry worksheet, or sorry, expense entry worksheet. So we'll hover on My Insight, get rid of these other ones there. So hover on My Insight, go to Expenses and Expense Entry Worksheet. And then just click Create and Submit Expense Report. And again, the options that are going to appear here are going to possibly be different than what you see depending on what settings your administrator has entered and set up. But then you can just go ahead and click on Save. Now, this is showing our approval form because I am actually the approver as well. But most cases you won't see this form after you've done your submit. You'll go back to the form that you were originally on. Now, to see and run time and expense reports, you can go to Reports, click on the Time category, and click Create Time Entry Report. Now, there are a lot of different options in here that you can use to create your own reports. For now, just leave all the default parameters and click on the Run Report option. And then you can see all the time entries that are out there. Now to run expense reports, click on Reports, click on the Expense category, and click Create Expense Report. And again, you can change your filtering criteria if you need to, or just click Run Report. And then again, you can see all the expenses that were entered. Now, if you need some more details on running those reports and changing those options, you can attend some of our reports training session for more detail on how to do that. But that brings us to the end of the topics for today's session. So if you have any questions, you can go ahead and enter those into the chat box. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and hand this back over to Denise for some closing slides. Denise?
Thank you, Angie. right, guys. So for those of you that are on social media, I'd like to invite you to follow us on Twitter. Our handle is @Project Insight. You can also follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, and of course, you can always hit a like on our page on Facebook. If you're not already a Project Insight user and would like to learn more, please feel free to reach us via phone, email, or request your demo at projectinsight.net. For those of you that would like to request that demo right away, I do have a link for you. I'm going to copy and paste that link into your chat box. Please feel free to click on the link, which will take you directly into our request information form. Go ahead and fill that out, and one of our Project Insight representatives will be more than happy to contact you. And finally, in our Project Insight community, you'll find many recorded videos and webinars for you to watch and learn from. You can sign up for your next product training, project management training, or IT methodology training, which is coming next week on Wednesday. That is at 8 a.m. Pacific time. If you'd like to register for that, please go ahead and visit our PI calendar and community, and you could do so there. If you have any questions, please feel free to send those in at info@projectinsight.net. Otherwise, that is all we have for you today. We'd like to thank Angie for a great session. And of course, we'd like to thank our audience for joining us today. And we do hope to have you on board next time. Have a great day.